lights down, come over here, and then
I'll go to the first one.
not till we go live.
Right.
Yeah. So it'll be after I come and sit down.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Barb, our director. You see me moving about every now and then, but I'm just letting you know with 1 minute going live. And you don't have to be quiet. You can just keep chatting and drinking and enjoying your food. I will be giving a countdown shortly. Enjoy the show. 30 seconds.
Good evening and welcome to the Ermatinger Heritage Center. It's wonderful to see you all here this evening, and it's so great to be able to be at live events again. It's been a long couple of years, and there are so many talented people in our fine city. It's great that we're all able to connect and see live entertainment again. And what a night we have in store for you. You're going to just love this whole evening. I would like to acknowledge that we are in Robinson Huron Treaty Territory, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, specifically the Garden River and Batchewana First Nations, as well as Métis people. My name is Marnie Stone, and I will be your MC this evening. I was feeling a little nervous earlier today, but I recognize so many of you, and you all make me feel so much calmer. So thank you for your attendance this evening and supporting live music and live entertainment in our city. And we have a theme happening this evening. It's downtown Sault Ste. Marie. And I have grown up downtown Sault Ste. Marie. I think many of you know that I am involved with Stone's Office Supply, a family business that is entering its 95th year this year. And yeah. And it's because of loyal customers that keep supporting us that we are able to be 95 years old. And I think that there's a lot of really positive things happening in our downtown right now, contrary to some people's opinions. I think there are many things on the horizon that are very encouraging, and I am very excited about the future direction that our downtown is taken. My husband and I recently purchased the Bank of Nova Scotia on the former Bank of Nova Scotia on the corner of Queen and Spring. This building just here on the corner. And this right here is where Stone's Office Supply is right now. This photo is from back in the 50s. And so the Scotiabank, we have plans to create, and we have created and opened the Art Hub at Spring. And on the second floor of this building, there are 10 art studios that were instantly rented without even advertising to 10 independent artists, working studios, and there's a gallery space in the center. So we have about 8 or 9 artists in queue for exhibitions that will start. It will open September 9th with a John LaFord celebration of John LaFord's life. That will be our first exhibition. And if you're interested in getting on the mailing list to be abreast of events, we would love to keep in touch with you. And from that experience, we've created another space 2 doors down in a building that we currently owned in the old Street City space. It will be called the Artesian, and it will be more of a maker's market space for people that do sculpture and clothing and jewelry and pottery. So that is slated to open in September. And then just Besides Stones right now, I don't know if you've noticed the huge construction that's going on downtown with the plaza. That's going in next door to us. And that has had some controversy too. Many people think, well, why don't they fix the potholes? And why aren't we helping mental health and addiction? And people don't understand that the money that was allotted for this development needed to be spent the way that it's being spent in downtown development, in what they're creating. And I think it's going to be a very good thing for our downtown. And they plan on having many events scheduled for the plaza. I think they have over 250 days planned during the year of events that will be happening at the plaza. So it will be very well monitored, very well lit, very well planned, a great place to bring the family, a great tourist attraction, which will be great for the trolley that they're 99.9% sure will go through next year. And the trolley will be a hop-on, hop-off. It'll go from the Canal District to the Bush Plain, to the museum, to the Art Hub at Spring, to all in that route, down Bay and down Queen, around and around. And it'll be hop-on, hop-off. And that will be another really great attraction for downtown. And I'm really, really encouraged by all of these things that are happening. So you can be encouraged too, and you can come downtown and you can shop at Minerva Vintage, where I went yesterday to see Barb Harrison. Thank you, Barb, so much for your support in loaning me. I think I just might buy this dress because ruching is my new best friend. But it's a fabulous store, and if you've never been into Barb's store, Minerva, she has menswear too. Fabulous boots and leather jackets and dishware, and it's a fabulous, she has a great eye. So come downtown and keep supporting us. We really appreciate it. So let me tell you a bit more about Stories Steeped in Stone. It's a variety series featuring 13 performances, each one showcasing a diverse lineup of talents, featuring artists and creatives from the Algoma region. They find their inspiration in the stories, culture, and landscape of this area. To set the scene for our first story of the evening, I ask you to stroll down Queen Street to the intersection of Bruce and Queen and read the signs. Davis Clothing. I remember I bought my first pair of jeans there. Himmel's Ladies Wear. Friedman's Department Store. Oh, I miss department stores. Fishman's Menswear. It's the heyday of the local clothing store, and the traveling salesman is in town with the latest line of fashion for the upcoming season. He stays at the WIndsor Park Hotel. His samples set up on racks and entertains his regular customer, Alan Torgov, proprietor of Torgov Dry Goods, and memorizing the moment for posterity, his son, Morley, as he drinks in the view from the 9th floor of the WIndsor Park Hotel. Playing the role of young Morley Torgov is Luca McCauley.
They drank rye, straight, no ice, no water, no ginger ale, while I drank in the splendid view of the city from the 9th floor windows of the WIndsor Park Hotel. To the south, the Michigan side of the border, and lake freighters riding high in the water with their holds empty, inching their way through the canal locks and up the St. Mary's River to take on iron ore and grain. To the west, the black, ugly expanse of steel mills spread across an orange sky. Mills that belched and hissed and glowed and poured smoke and the smell of sulfur across the horizon. To the north, dark green hills presided over the stately Collegiate Institute. To the east, the Forbidden Territory, Simpson Street with its parched and pillared local establishment houses. And just out of sight and beyond the reach of the smoke and sulfur, the Golf and Country Club. Other adventurers might find their fortunes by going west, but in this town, you hadn't made it until you gone east. I loved this panorama. At this precise moment, it was mine, exclusively mine. No other kid in the whole of Sault Ste. Marie, not even a Simpson Street kid, could share this view. And I thought happily, another 3 months and the salesman will be back with the spring line, and I'll get to see this view from the 9th floor again. After all, a boy's got a dream.
Thank you, Luca. That was fabulous. A Good Place to Come From, published in 1974, won the Stephen Leacock Award for Humor. How many of you have read that book? That's awesome. I have not, and I need to. I think we all need to. Morley Torgov, at 94, is still writing novels on the same typewriter he wrote A Good Place to Come From. He received the Order of Canada in 2015. And I understand he's tuning in tonight on the live stream. Hi, Morley. I was taken right back to that suite on the 9th floor just now, Luca. Thank you for that. I got ready for my wedding ceremony in that very suite back in 1989 with my grandparents and my parents. All the bridesmaids were there. We got ready, and it was just so magical, that hotel, that space. I remember it as a young girl, and I see they're doing a lot of work on it right now, and I hope that they keep some of the tradition of the old grandeur of that space. Specifically, I think it was called the Queen Elizabeth Suite on the 9th floor. I think that's what it was called. Fabulous. So now for our headliner, Wasn't It Grand? A theatrical retrospective of Sault Ste. Marie's original opera house. I have learned so much this week about the opera houses of Sault Ste. Marie. I had no idea that so many existed and so many incredibly talented people passed through Sault Ste. Marie. So you're really going to enjoy this. It's just fascinating. Please welcome Timothy Murphy, Ali Čolak, and Jarrett Mills performing Wasn't It Grand?
In 1917, 22-year-old local jeweler Lloyd Aloysius Joseph Gonzaga Videlin Jenkins was a tenor in the ensemble of an operetta being staged in downtown Sault Ste. Marie. Also in the ensemble was 21-year-old Margaret Mary Delaney. They met in the chorus, fell in love. He proposed to her after the show one night, and 2 years later they were married on August 23, 1919. They had 4 children, Rita, Helen, Bob, and the baby of the family, my mother, Dorothy. But this story isn't about my mother or my aunts or my uncle or even about my grandparents, really, but it is about the place that they met. The Grand Opera House at the corner of Bay and Brock Streets, which is the present site of a senior citizens residence and a drop-in center. It had opened in 1903 as the Canadian Theatre, became the Opera House in 1909, and the Grand Opera House in 1914, and was by then one of 15 theaters operating in Sault Ste. Marie at the time. In the early 1900s, the moving motion picture industry was still in its infancy, and silent productions took second billing after live performances, including offerings from the vaudeville circuit, full-scale operas, and dramatic touring troupes. Before 1912, theaters like The Merry Widow on Queen Street near Pilgrim, the Wonderland, where Foch's Cleaners is now located at Queen near East, the Arcade, the Lyceum on Brock Street next to where Tim Hortons now stands, all populated downtown. They were later joined by the Orpheum and the Gaiety near where Stone's Office Supply is. By 1917, the King's Theatre, now the King Apartments across from the bus terminal at Dennis Street, the Duchess, and the Princess on Gore had all been built and would soon be joined by the Algoma. The Grand Opera House didn't arrive without some contention. It wasn't even actually the first opera house that was proposed for the city. Meet Horace Homer. In July of 1902, Horace was employed by
the banking firm of F.H.C. Reynolds. On July 12, 1902, at a city council meeting, I unveiled plans for a $300,000 office block.
That'd be $10,196,372.09 today.
And a $40,000 opera house.
$1,359,516.
And 28 cents.
And 28 cents.
The 5-story building was to be constructed on 220 feet of land in the grounds of the International Hotel,
Which was located on the waterfront at Bay Street, where the Days Inn is now, and was owned by the Lake Superior Power Company.
part of my friend Francis H. Clergue's empire. Now, my proposal called for a first-class opera house, part of a retail and office complex of magnificent proportions, and would extend westward to Bruce Street. The newly incorporated Arcade Company would take over the property, and F.H.C. Reynolds would finance the new building as an investment in the future. All we ask of the city is a tax break.
Excuse me, Mr. Homer, a tax break?
And you are?
Alderman John Dawson. I own the Dawson block at Queen Anne Streets.
In 1902, there were strong rivalries between East and West, and Elgin Street was the dividing line. East was Elgin to Pym, and West was Elgin to Gore Street. And politicians were striving to keep expansion to the east.
Ah, yes, Mr. Dawson. Well, you see, as I mentioned, F.H.C. Reynolds sees this as an investment in the future. The Opera House is expected to lose $3,000 annually until the city's population grows to meet our vision. An arts-based venture like this is not likely to turn a profit for years.
120 years later, things haven't changed much. Too bad you guys didn't have the Canadian Heritage Funds around back then.
So, we're asking for a tax freeze of 20 years.
20 years? That hardly seems fair to the businesses downtown.
You mean, Mr. Dawson, like those businesses renting in the Dawson block, including the grocery store run by your two sons in the East End?
Not specifically, but you raise a valid question. Will the retailers in your complex be in competition with the existing businesses, Mr. Homer?
Oh, no, Mr. Dawson.
Good.
We're promising a much better class of business with higher rental rates than anywhere else.
Faced with the proposal of a new build and an investment in the economic future of the city located in the West End that would bring competition to the existing retailers, naturally the city aldermen were eager to
Form a committee. We need a committee to properly consider the matter.
A committee was formed and a week later issued a report that no dry goods
Or groceries should be allowed to open in the new complex so as not to threaten local businessmen.
Remember what I said about things not changing much in 120 years? Station Mall. When the vote went back to council, Horace Homer found he only had one supporter. And then a curious thing happened. Alderman Sidney Penorwood rose to deliver some news.
I have been approached by an unnamed promoter who has made an offer similar to Mr. Homer's. My anonymous investor wants to build an opera house as well, but he wants to locate it near the foot of Brock Street.
East End. A week later, the next council meeting, things really heated up.
I'm Russell Halton, architect for the opera house being planned for Bay and Brock Streets, and I'm representing my anonymous client here today to protest the special assessment being requested by Mr. Homer.
All right, I would like to resolve this issue once and for all. I will settle for a 10-year tax freeze. What's the real issue you have with my proposal, Mr. Dawson? Is it perhaps the location?
I resent that remark. I have as much interest in the West as in the East.
Good one. Yeah. Then Alderman Collins rose to speak.
I'm Alderman Collins.
Yes, Mr. Collins. I'm familiar with your building across from Sacred Heart.
That's what Precious Blood Cathedral was called until 1931. East End.
I want to know if you actually have the capital for your project. I have to wonder, for such a brainy man, I think it's too bad you're going into poor investments.
Finally, Mayor Thompson spoke up.
Mayor W.J. Thompson, proprietor of the dry goods store on Queen Street between East and Brock.
East End.
I believe it's best if we put this to a vote to the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie to decide, Mr. Homer.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Would you agree to pay $40 for a plebiscite to gauge the public support of your venture?
Oh, absolutely, Your Worship.
Mr. Mayor? Yes, Alderman Collins. The members of the committee we formed to study Mr. Homer's proposal believes that the Board of Trade
That's the predecessor to the Chamber of Commerce.
should comment before the residents of the city have
Well,
a say.
now this new roadblock was the final straw for the entrepreneur.
That's it. I quit. Enough. Forget about it. I'm outie.
He wouldn't have said I'm outie, but the Sault Star did report on August 21st, 1902, that Mr. Homer, recognizing the council's unfriendliness to his project, has dropped it. Soon enough, the anonymous businessman was revealed to be Mr. Albert Seach, and on September 18th, 1902, the Sault Star reported, next Monday, work will be commenced on Mr. Seach's Opera House on the southeast corner of Bay and Brock Streets, opposite the Hiawatha Hotel. The building will be of brick or cement veneer, will seat 500 or 600 people, and will cost, with finishing, in the neighborhood of $10,000. Mr. Seach says,
I do not look on this dramatic venture as a finality, but I think it will do to tide over 2 or 3 years, and by that time I consider the Sioux will be ready for something better. And also the proper place to build a costly opera house will be easier to pick. Mr. H. Russell Halton is preparing plans for the structure.
Which will be 44 by 100 feet. The building will be a plain one with no pretensions at all, and after it has served its operatic purpose, it will probably be sold to be used as a warehouse. It will contain a gallery and will be heated by steam.
take that, Mr. First Class Opera House Magnificent Structure Horace Homer.
In its heyday, the Grand Opera House was host to some truly remarkable performances.
Well, it had to be if it was to compete with the neighboring theaters like the Orpheum that were bringing in quality vaudeville acts.
Like Howard's Bears, consisting of 4 bears, 3 dogs, and the only trained anteater in the world.
On November of 1910, the Grand Opera House staged what was certainly one of the most elaborate spectacles ever witnessed in Sault Ste. Marie.
Apparently it was the theatrical event of the season.
On November the 10th, 1910, the Sault Star reported,
Queen Zephyra is a beautiful extravaganza to be presented for the benefit of the Royal Victoria Hospital Fund, and comes to the Sioux with a record of success unparalleled in the United States and Canada in the history of spectacular attractions, and a rich and rare treat is in store for the lovers of the artistic and beautiful. And our citizens should be congratulated upon having an opportunity of witnessing this great spectacle. This is the 18th year of its great success, and it is considered today without peer either in the professional or amateur stage. A word to the wise should be sufficient. Don't miss it on your life.
on November the 24th, the reviews were in.
Tuesday and Wednesday evening at the Opera House was crowded with an appreciative audience to listen to the opera Queen Zephyra, put on by about 200 of the Sioux's young people. The performance went through without a hitch, all doing their part admirably. The scenery and costumes were gorgeous and were supplied by Professor Booth, who put on the opera. The proceeds are in aid of the Royal Victoria Hospital.
With the Sioux being a border town, the Grand Opera House was on the Ontario-Michigan circuit, with many of the stock companies coming from vaudeville acts from Buffalo, then up to the Sioux, and then finishing their run down in Chicago.
The variety of entertainment available at the Opera House seemed endless. Adams Drug Store housed the box office for the Grand, where 3 to 5 classes of seating were available, depending on the show.
Prices were as low as 10 cents for a matinee or a seat in the gods, and higher price seating was available in the gallery. And if you wanted to see Ernest Ward as Cassius in Julius Caesar.
Or, better yet, his brother, America's greatest tragedian, Mr. Frederick Ward as Brutus.
Et tu, Brute?
You were going to have to fork out a whopping $1.50 for a seat downstairs.
If you wanted a show for the whole family, you could attend the annual appearance of The Cat and the Fiddle, which in 1911 included Broadway star Harry Watson of Ziegfeld Follies fame in its cast.
A positively entertaining and refreshing musical is promised at the Grand Opera House on Saturday evening when The Cat and the Fiddle makes its annual appearance here. It is distinctly a show of novelties and surprises, and this season many new ones are promised, including My Maid in the Moon, an electrical song hit, which is becoming very popular. Mother Goose's Baby Dolls, a medley number with all the nursery rhyme characters introduced in a lifelike manner, such as Mother Goose. Little Boy Blue. Bo Peep. Red Riding Hood. Simple Simon. Tom the Piper's Son. Humpty Dumpty.
Oh!
Etc. It is a great treat to the little ones, it is claimed, while the big folks will be delighted. Teddy in the Jungle, another new number, is a caricature of a tropical nature and with a scenic setting in keeping.
Or for something a little more risque, the Grand also imported burlesque shows from the circuit.
A treat for the people is promised and an engagement unusual. That of the Monte Carlo Girls' Big Burlicue, a company of pretty maidens and a cast of funny comedians booked to appear at the Grand Opera House Saturday evening, October 21st, will surely be the hit of the season. The comedy parts are looked after by those two funny fellows, Welsh and Fields, with a trunk full of laughable stunts. Myrtle Clark is the ginger girl of the cast with a line of patter that glides across the footlights in the sauciest kind of fashion. The dressing of the show is said to be the best ever, and to miss this one will surely give you the blues.
By the way, the funny fellow named Fields, who appeared as part of the comedy duo Welsh and Fields, was none other than W.C. Fields, the legendary Hollywood comedian who began his career as a comic juggler in vaudeville.
There was another Fields in vaudeville at the same time. Lou Fields and Joe Weber were known for broad slapstick sketches, an example of which we present for you now.
I am delightfulness to meet you.
The disgust is all mine.
Hey, I received the letter from mine Doyle, but I don't know how to written in her back.
Written in her back? Such an education you got. Written in her back? You mean rotten in her back. How can you answer her when you don't even know how to write?
Oh, that makes no never mind. She don't know how to read.
If you love her, why don't you send her some poultry?
Poultry? She don't need no poultry. Her father is a butcher.
I mean love blades, like Romeo and Juliet talks. If you love you like I love me, no knife can cut us together.
I don't like that.
Well, what do you want to say to her?
I don't want you to know what I want to say to her. All I want to do is you to tell me what to put in the letter.
Such a foolishness you are. If I don't tell you what to say, how will you know what to write if she doesn't know how to read?
I don't want anybody to know what I'm written into her.
You don't want anybody to know what you're written into her?
No!
Then send her a postal card.
But send her a postal card? If I do, she'll think I don't care 2 cents for her.
Are you going to marry her?
In 2 days, I will be a murdered man.
A what?
Married man.
I hope you will always look back upon the present moment as the happiest moment of your life.
But I ain't married yet.
I know it. And furthermore, upon this suspicious occasion, I also wish to express to you, charges collect, my uppermost depreciation of the dishonor you have informed upon me in making me your bridesmaid.
Oh, their insult is all mine.
As you stand before me now, so young, so innocent, so obnoxious, the only one void that can express mine pleasure, mine dissatisfaction,
Yes?
and I can't take the void.
Oh, well, I know. I will be happy.
I know you will be. And later on, when you lose all your money, and your wife goes back on you, and your house burns down, and your children get run over, then I, your best friend, will take you by the hand.
Yes?
And say,
Yes.
and say, I told you so.
Say, what is this going to be, a wedding or a funeral?
A funeral in course. And remember also that while I wish you plenty of mishaps, I also wish you lots of misfortunes.
For boxing fans, the Grand Opera House began hosting boxing exhibitions in 1911. Some even featuring local athletes like Billy Hughes, the 118-pound featherweight champion of Western Canada, when he met Toronto's undisputed bantamweight champion of Canada, Freddie Lansdowne. Even ladies were invited to witness the manly act of self-defense and good scientific work between the two clever boys.
Friday evening, lovers of the boxing game were entertained to several good events at the Grand Opera House. And the sport having caught on, it is expected that exhibitions of this nature will in future be frequent. The stellar event of the evening was the exhibition given by Billy Hughes, the fast bantamweight of the Sioux, and Freddie Lansdowne of Toronto, the Canadian champion. The bout lasted 10 rounds and was interesting at all stages. Lansdowne is undoubtedly a boxer of ability and has little the best of Hughes as regards reach, but appeared at his best when standing and jabbing. Hughes, on the contrary, evidenced a desire to get at his man at close range, and when he did so, Lansdowne was compelled to clinch to save himself. The match was very interesting.
Because many of the theatrical troupes that traveled through the Sioux were on a circuit, they could often only offer one performance. Such was the case of Alma, Where Do You Live? A Broadway musical that had found great success at the Weber and Fields Theater on Broadway. Yes, that same Weber and Fields Theater became the 44th Street Theater. The story revolves around Alma, an actress who meets an artist while horseback riding, and they fall instantly in love. In the title song, Alma laments about the bold flirtatiousness of the men who woo her with no thought of marriage. Starring Nanette Flack as Alma, here is an excerpt from the production. Cue slide.
Why are the men so bold? Why do they stare at me? Despite my manner cold, they flirt outrageously. They smirk and smile and sigh. Before me they appear, and when I try to pass them by, they whisper shyly in my ear. Alma, sweet Alma, where do you live? What is your phone, dear? Your number, please give. Alma, I'll ring you, but then I say, dear,
Grand Opera House welcomed Broadway star Margaret Illington in her triumphant return to the stage after a multi-year hiatus in the major success Kindling, a detective play with thrills, throbs, and laughs.
Margaret Illington was described as an actress with a depth of passion, a magnificently modulated voice, and a handsome carriage. And they weren't talking about her horse and buggy.
The very next day, 2 performances of The Prince of Tonight graced the stage of the Grand, with scenes laid out in Palm Beach, Florida, and the Land of the Moon, featuring wonderful electrical effects.
According to the advertisement, the changes of costumes and scenes are bewildering in their frequency. Most of these touring troupes would travel with their own scenery, with drapes and scenic drops being hung in the fly gallery. But vaudeville houses like the Grand would also have stock drops available with standard settings, like a parlor, a kitchen, a street, a forest, or a palace.
The Prince of Tonight introduced a 1909 song that nearly 40 years later became a hit of Perry Como, and was also recorded by Dean Martin, Bing Crosby, Bobby Darin, and Anne Murray. I Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now.
I Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now, sung by Anne Murray. You have loved lots of girls in the sweet long ago, and each one has meant heaven to you. You have vowed your affection to each one in turn, and have sworn to them all you'd be true. You have kissed 'neath the moon while the world seemed in tune. Then you left her to hunt a new game. Does it ever occur to you, later, my boy, that she's probably doing the same? I wonder who's kissing her now. Wonder who's teaching her now. Wonder who's looking into her eyes, breathing sighs, telling lies. I wonder who's buying the wine for lips that I used to call mine. Wonder if she ever tells him of me. I wonder who's kissing her now. If you want to feel wretched and lonely and blue, just imagine the girl you love best in the arms of some fellow who's stealing a kiss from the lips that you once fondly pressed. But the world moves apace, and the loves of today flit away with a smile and a tear. So you never can tell who is kissing her now, or who you'll be kissing next year. I wonder who's kissing her now. Wonder who's teaching her now. Wonder who's whispering in her ears, breathing sighs, telling lies. I wonder who's buying the wine for lips that I used to call mine. Wonder if she ever tells him of me. I wonder who's kissing her now.
The Opera House also welcomed religious-themed spectacles that were popular at the time. Titles like The Sign of the Cross, Quo Vadis, and The Rosary were all devotional dramas of the era. In 1912, the Sioux saw
The Light Eternal, Henry Miller's magnificent spectacular drama of early Rome. The Light Eternal, the most powerful portrayal of a devotional theme the stage has ever known. The Light Eternal is conceded by every authority on dramatic literature and modern stage productions to be the greatest religious drama of all time. Never before has a note of such universal appeal been sounded, and never before has a play been so lavishly presented.
Clearly, he didn't see Queen Zephyra.
The Light Eternal was a dramatization of Cardinal Weisman's historical novel Fabiola, written by Martin V. Merle in 1905.
And it was advertised as an inspiring romance on Christian martyrdom. Of the scenic effects, it was reported that the garden scene in the second act brings forth bursts of applause. The climax of the third act, when the image of Jupiter is struck by lightning and a cross of fire appears, is a particularly fine mechanical effect and is reached by cleverly contrived electrical storms.
Better than Ben-Hur.
By 1913, the Grand Opera House had installed a movie screen in its fly gallery and could thus further compete with its counterparts like the King Theater.
Sometimes between picture shows, the audience would be treated to a preview of sets to promote the upcoming stage productions. For example, when Queen Zephyra returned to the Opera House as another benefit for the Ladies' Aid of the Royal Victoria Hospital, the Sioux Star had this to say.
Through the kindness of Mr. Abrahams, manager of the Grand Opera House, the scenery to be used in Act 1 of Queen Zephyra will be displayed between picture shows now running at the Grand. The public are asked to inspect it. The scenery is considered to be one of the most beautiful palace settings on the road today. The 165 Sioux people taking parts are in perfect shape for an excellent production, and everyone attending Queen Zephyra are assured of a most beautiful and snappy musical show. Not one slow moment. The Ladies' Aid of the Royal Victoria Hospital feel now that this production will be the most beautiful ever presented.
I'm sure the 1910 cast members were happy to read that.
And assure the public that they will receive more for the price asked than ever before. And at the same time, increase the funds of the Hospital Ladies' Aid, bringing their plans much closer to being realized.
It would be 4 more years before the Royal Victoria Hospital opened at 157 Albert Street, and that house is still there.
Boxing matches continued at the Grand, and by 1913, the management had added wrestling matches to the entertainment lineup at the Opera House.
Carl Lato, the champion wrestler of the world, will wrestle Pat Gahin of Chicago tomorrow night at the Grand Opera House for the best 2 out of 3 falls and the winner to take the gate. Lato has proven himself to be, without a doubt, a fair, clean, gentlemanly sport who will concede a point rather than have any difference, and is also a man that is out for his reputation. Pat Gahin has the reputation in Chicago of being a hard man and has been seen in some fast company. Both are confident that the money is theirs, and it will likely take a good stiff argument to persuade either of them to the contrary.
Broadway actress Helen Grace came to the Sioux to perform 3 different plays over 2 days at the Grand in June of 1913. As the Sioux Star reported, it was becoming less common and more expensive for theaters to present traveling shows. But apparently, Helen Grace was worth the ticket price. The vogue of the ordinary $1.50 traveling company has passed away. In its stead has arrived at the high-class stock organization, those that are made up of skilled actors with the best of the newer plays and sumptuous stage accessories. No other star on the American stage has kept so fully abreast of all these times as Helen Grace, who appears at the Grand Opera House all next week. For 5 years, she has been perfecting her company and devoting herself to the elevation of the drama. Her wonderful success is the best evidence that she is meeting with suitable reward. In fact, her performances are about the only chance local theater goers will have of witnessing the latest of Broadway successes, as the New York producers are not sending their plays on one-night tours this season. Miss Grace presents The Man on the Box Monday night, Paid in Full Tuesday afternoon, and Madam X Tuesday night. Seats on sale tomorrow at the Adams Drugstore.
And now we present a scene from Madam X, starring Helen Grace as Jacqueline, who has returned home to her child Raymond and her husband Louis, whom she had previously abandoned for another man. In this scene, I shall play the role of Louis.
And I...
And I shall play the role of Jacqueline.
The scene takes place in the living room of Louis Floriot. Jacqueline, left alone, goes to the sofa and sits. She takes up Raymond's photo and kisses it.
Oh, my darling boy, if it were not for you, I...
Enter Louis, coming towards Jacqueline. He stops short.
You!
He is wishful to strangle her, but restrains himself with difficulty, goes up to the double doors and flings them open. Angrily.
Leave this house.
Louis!
Furiously.
Leave this house!
Listen, Louis!
Go!
Yes, I will go. I promise you that I will go, but listen.
Louis shuts the door and comes down center. With an effort, he remains calm. After a moment of silence,
Well, what do you want?
she leans over the end of the sofa.
Forgiveness.
Ah,
Oh, forgive me. Forget.
He turns.
forget. How can I forget? For the last 2 years, I have been living with a memory which is eating my very soul out. The memory of you in another man's arms.
Clenching his fists.
And you ask me to forget.
Louis, in our child's name.
I forbid you to mention the child. You have no right to him. He is mine. Mine only.
Ah,
Did you think of him when you left us? And if you did, why did you leave him?
I was mad.
Coming down center to Jacqueline with bitter irony.
Mad? That is the kind of answer I expected. I was false to my husband. I deserted my child. I was mad. I stole up to the house like a thief and carried all the happiness away with me. I was mad. I went to live a life of pleasure, or at least what I thought was pleasure. I was mad. The excuse is an easy one.
And yet it is the truth.
No, it is not the truth. You are tired of me, and you love the other man. That is the truth. You are not mad. You may as well confess it now.
Hotly.
Confess it! You loved him. You loved him.
He said he would kill himself at my feet if I...
Oh, and you believed him. You never gave a thought to me, although I worshipped you, and you said you loved me.
And it was true, Louis.
Scornfully.
True.
He seizes the chair and sits.
Yes, it was true. We never understood each other.
She half rises.
That is all. You loved me as you knew how to love, with the love of a master for a slave. But you never let me be your friend. You were never gentle with me. You never took me into your life. You never really knew my heart. And with you, I always felt alone, always alone.
She rises and goes a little towards him.
Although I loved you, I was always afraid of you. You were so serious, so severe, and I needed gaiety, laughter, and joy. You never thought of that, never noticed that I was unhappy. You had your work, your ambition, your friends. I had nothing. And I was young, so young, barely 20. Oh, Louis, do forgive me. Try, oh, do try. I am truly repentant. Oh, do try.
She falls on her knees.
For $1.50 a ticket?
He rises.
No.
Louis!
Go.
Why did I go away? You would have killed me then at once, and that would have been the end. Louis, forgive me.
Weakening.
No, surely you must understand that I... Go.
What will become of me?
He goes to the windows and flings them open.
Go back to the other man who said he would have killed himself for you.
In a whisper.
He is dead.
He flings the chair aside, coming towards Jacqueline.
So that is the reason why you have come back.
No!
She shrinks back.
Oh, now I understand.
I came to see Raymond.
And I was on the point of yielding. What a fool I was. I actually believed in your repentance.
I should not have dared to come back if I...
So, he is dead, is he?
I wrote and told you so.
And now that he is dead, of course, you come to me again.
No! No!
To me, your idiot of a husband, who you think in his weakness will be only too glad to take you back.
Not in his weakness, Louis, but out of his generosity. I cannot live without you, Louis, or without our child. Cannot you see that I have changed? I have been so unhappy.
Unhappy.
Rising desperately.
Louis, cannot you see that I'm speaking the truth? Do let me see our child again.
He has forgotten you.
Oh, let me kiss him just once.
He believes you to be dead.
Oh, no, no.
He believes you to be dead.
Do not say that. It can't be true. It is too horrible. Louis, you used to love me. Remember that. I'm turning into Katharine Hepburn. You used to love me. I am your wife, the mother of your son.
You have gone out of my life and out of his.
Oh my God, Louis, forgive me. And a life of repentance shall.
He throws open the doors.
Go!
Oh, don't take my child from me.
Go!
Oh, let me see him again. I will not speak to him if you forbid it, but let me see him once and kiss him and...
Shaking his head.
Leave my house!
Louis, pity. Oh, my child, my child.
She kneels.
This is like going to Catholic church.
She clasps his hand. He throws her hand from his. He exits and slams the door. She rises slowly, dazed, mechanically takes her furs from the sofa and goes slowly out the doors to the street. At the slam of the doors,
Slam!
Louis returns and calls Jacqueline.
Jacqueline.
And realizing that she is gone, comes slowly back to his table and sinks into his armchair. And scene. By the spring of 1914, there was political unrest overseas, and the world was preparing to go to war. The Grand had already been shuttered for some time between late 1913 and the spring of 1914, when the Sault Ste reported...
The Grand Opera House, after being closed for some time, will open its doors on the 27th of May, after having been thoroughly renovated by Mr. William Hallam. It has been painted, papered, and has new electrical fixtures, and has been put in first-class condition.
The article went on to challenge local audiences.
Can Sault Ste. Marie support opera? The opportunity is here. Will you take it? What's the use in having an opera house, and yet never an opera in it? Are there enough classical music-loving people who appreciate high-class music to justify the management of the Grand Opera House in bringing here the Sheehan English Opera Company? That's the question. The organization, headed by Joseph F. Sheehan, the greatest of all American tenors, holds a unique position in the music world.
Joseph Sheehan was indeed a famous tenor who was the founder of the Boston English Opera Company and was declared by Dr. J. Pitta
Unique among tenors, as his singing machine combines to a greater extent than that of any other tenor I have examined the physical characteristics of that I have these characteristics necessary for the perfect production of vocal sounds of almost unlimited volume. In my examination, I have found that Sheehan's vocal tube is 1/2 inch longer than that of any other tenor on record. This accounts for his extraordinary compass, pitch, and volume. His vocal cords are 1/8 of an inch longer than the ordinary and possess extraordinary vibrato qualities. Sheehan's bones are more resonant than those of other pristons. Tap one of his knuckles smartly with your forefinger, and it gives a higher pitch and more resonant tone than that of another person examined. The phenomenal capacity and power of his chest is shown by his ability to push a grand piano several inches by the mere expansion of his chest. When the tenor is singing a C sharp, his vocal cords attain the phenomenal rate of 500 vibrations a second. Finally, Sheehan's epiglottis is so formed that it acts as a unique sounding board. It seems that anyone would complain not hearing Sheehan sing too much, but this has been done. It appears that the famous tenor has a penchant for rising at an unearthly hour in the morning and running the scales in his boom. The result is he arouses everyone within earshot, which in the case of Sheehan means nearly everyone in the hotel.
Sheehan performed the best act from each of 3 operas, Il Trovatore, The Bohemian Girl, and Martha.
And with the war underway during the Christmas holidays in 1915, while families were missing their loved ones who were in battle overseas, the Grand Opera presented a special matinee with moving pictures of our soldiers in Europe, with proceeds going to the Daughters of the Empire.
From 1914 through 1918, the Opera House continued to provide entertainment to offer escape from the harsh realities of the Great War.
In 1916, the talents of the Chernyavsky Trio were featured at the Grand. These 3 Ukrainian brothers had been performing together since childhood, and they moved to Canada, where 6 years later they would all become naturalized citizens. They were renowned for their renditions of classical pieces on the cello, violin, and piano.
Also in 1916 came The Prince of Pilsen, one of the most internationally successful musical productions, which was reuniting an all-star Broadway cast, including lead actor Jess Dandy, who was reprising the role he originated on Broadway in 1906, and who only 2 years earlier had appeared in 9 of Charlie Chaplin's short films.
One of the final offerings before the war ended in 1918 was 1917's full-scale opera, Donizetti's masterpiece Lucia di Lammermoor, presented by the Caruso Grand Opera Company with the full orchestra in the pit under the direction of an orchestra leader from La Scala Opera House in Milan, and the daughter of a princely family from Messina, Italy, Mrs. Mary Carnulli.
And the final document I was able to locate for the Grand Opera House was this ticket for the Wednesday, October 5th, 1921 performance of Norma, presented by the New York Grand Opera Company for one night only, and starring coloratura soprano Mademoiselle Luisa Alloro, who had performed with Enrico Caruso himself on the stage at the Metropolitan Opera House in New York. The orchestra, once again, under the baton of La Scala's Mary Carnulli. This was the caliber of talent the Grand Opera House continued to bring to a northern Ontario city of 21,000 people in 1921, 18 years after the construction of what was supposed to be a temporary opera house for 2 or 3 years. In 1920, Albert Seach was listed as the manager of the Grand and was living in Sioux, Michigan, while his widowed sister-in-law, Anne, was the resident of the apartment above the theater. In 1921, after being closed again for some time, the Grand reopened with Albert Elliott listed as the manager and resident of the apartment. And by 1924, the Opera House was closed and sat vacant until 1927. In 1928, it opened again, this time fulfilling the prophecy of architect Russell Halton. The former Grand Opera House had become a brewer's warehouse and operated as such and a brewer's retail store until it became Pratt's Machine Shop. In 1957, Bales Tire Service bought the building and resided there until 1972. I've heard from people who lived in the apartment above Bales Tire Shop that the entire time that it was operating, the scenic drops of the Grand Opera House still hung in the fly galleries. And the pictures you are seeing now were taken by Carl Del Bianco in 1972. I went to school with Carl's children at Sacred Heart. They lived over on Bingham Avenue in a house close to where Tim Hortons is, kitty corner to where the building stood that was the Grand Opera. Before it was demolished in 1974 as part of the waterfront redevelopment and urban renewal, Carl Del Bianco got into the building and captured these images of the posters that were still plastered to the walls of the tire shop. And you can see a tire right there on a top shelf in front of a royal slave. So the story ends as a tragedy, with the echoes of the voices and the music and the applause and the cheers and the laughter and the tears all vaporizing into the dust as those walls were bulldozed down with not a thought to rescuing any of the history that lived within them. On the other hand, perhaps it ends as a memory play, because we do still have the stories and the music and the memories, and I'll always have Lloyd and Margaret.
Bravo. So amazing. Please, Timothy, Allie, and Jarrett, please take a bow.
Here's my dress. Got my dress in the back.
Valerie, thank you.
Sorry.
All right, so.
Fascinating. Just so much history and how much has changed in 100 years. Just unbelievable. Luca, would you please join us back up on the stage? We're going to have just a short little chat. And how much did you learn this evening? Who knew that this had all taken place in Sault Ste. Marie? Crazy.
This is for you, Marnie.
Can you share with us what
Do you want this, Barb?
what
you want
you
to take
found tonight in your grandfather's hat?
Oh, that was crazy. So just before I was here, Barb, you can have this too. Thanks. I ran home. I'd forgotten something at home. And so after I first arrived here, I went back home again to grab some papers. And then I thought, you know what? In my basement, I've got that box with Grandpa Jenkins' top hat in it. I'm going to grab that and put it out in the lobby, too. I don't know if you saw the top hat out there. He belonged to the Knights of Columbus. He was a Grand Knight, and that was the beaver shirred top hat that he wore. And what I didn't remember was that I had put a whole bunch of stuff in there when my Aunt Helen had passed away, and we got a lot of her stuff. And so in that hat box, there were 3 scripts from when my grandmother and grandfather were doing shows in 1917 and up to 1921 at the Grand Opera House. They're out there now, little blue, crazy. The scripts, Helen had written a note saying that I didn't know that he had proposed to her after a concert one night. So there was a note in there that Helen had written and taped to the newspaper article. And then also lyrics to a song that apparently my grandmother and grandfather sang together whenever they'd get together at parties and stuff, and they would sing this duet, and the lyrics are out there as well, 1921 it says. So all of that was in, and if I hadn't just thought to grab that top hat, so I really felt like they were here with me tonight,
What
you know.
a sign.
And this ring, one more quick story is this ring was, I had this made, but the diamond in here was my mother's engagement ring that my father bought from my grandfather at Lloyd Jenkins Jewelers in the Windsor Park Hotel. And the other rings were my grandmother's diamonds that my mother had added to her engagement ring later on in life. And after my mother passed, I took the stones and had them turned into this. So they're all here.
And there was a rainbow over top of the old stone house tonight.
Was there?
After that rain.
Kathy, thank you for doing that for us, Kathy Fisher.
All kinds of signs.
Hi, Donna.
I love it. So, amazing evening. Thank you all so much for your incredible talents. And just if you have a quick story that you would like to share, your own personal, maybe a great memory about downtown, or maybe something that you think our downtown is needing from a younger perspective, can you share any thoughts that you might have with?
Is that for me or for Luca?
For all of you.
us?
Yes.
Just not prepared for that question.
Yeah.
You know what? I have to say, like, having moved home after being away for a while, there was nothing more exciting to me than seeing that downtown street party, just I think it was last week, and seeing the sense of community that downtown really can bring to the Soo. It's something that I don't know I realized that I missed until we couldn't have those things. And it was just, you know, I really do see stores and shops, and I can go buy butter tarts now. It's great. All downtown that, you know, wasn't always available when I was growing up. It's really nice to see that we're getting more, you know, shopping opportunities, cafes. The outdoor dining, I think, was a really great addition during COVID. It's just so nice to walk down and go to one of the great places that are down there. So I think it's
Great observations. That's
it's getting
positive.
awesome down there, for sure.
Good. Jarrett, Luca, do you have anything to add?
I don't know. Like,
I'd like to see a downtown theater,
That would be
Yes.
cool.
a downtown performance space. And don't get me wrong, White Pines is great for when we do the huge musicals. We need the fly gallery, and we need all the, the bells and whistles. But I believe that this city needs a 500-seat theater located in the heart of downtown. And I think if Sudbury could do it with 250, we could do it. So
That'd be nice.
Okay. We're going to throw that out to the universe because, you can do that these days and things just kind of.
if you say it on the internet, it's true.
So thank you all for your attendance this evening and your support of the arts. To all of you that tuned in on the live stream, thank you so much for being here. And Stories Steeped in Stone is brought to you by the partnership of Friends of Ermatinger Clergue National Historic Site and Theatre in Motion. We are grateful for funding from Canadian Heritage, which allowed the series to come to life. The next Stories Steeped in Stone will be happening on September the 8th at 7 p.m. in person here or online, live streaming, featuring Rusty McCarthy and Maya Bannerman. Thank you again for being here. Bon nuit, good night. Woohoo! Great job.